Hi pals, John here with the LensPal, and today we're going to take a in-depth look at the Amaran F22c. As you can see, this is a flexible, foldable light panel. And it's from Aputure, the same guys who make all of your favorite lighting, especially if you're a videographer out there. And I am just going to break everything today. It is a Friday, so it might be the 13th, who knows, it might just be my luck. So the Aputure Amaran F22c is a 2 foot by 2 foot foldable full RGB panel, and I've done an overview video on this before, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth on what it can do and how to control it and everything else. To begin with, yes, it is a flexible panel, but you don't have to use it like a flexible panel. It does come with this odd looking thing that allows you to turn it into a more rigid setup. Just kind of maneuver these arms into place. You pull out this little pin, you move it away from where it is, and that allows you to rotate these into place. And then you kind of have to like flex these legs to get them to fit into the slots on the back of the panel. But that's kind of like the setup rather than the operation. So I'm not going to spend too much more time on that. I'm just going to pop this out of the way. In addition to this frame support, it does also come with this, which is the shell of the softbox, the walls of the softbox, if you will. Again, folds up nice and small. And we have here a couple of different levels of diffusion that you can attach to the softbox and the grid. But again, that's more about the setup than the operation. So I'm just going to set those right over there so they're out of the way. Now, I'm going to be cutting between this camera and my top-down camera as we talk through everything that's going on here. And let's get into it. So what we have here is the F22c and the control box. Now, right now I've got it plugged into mains power so it doesn't somehow die on us during this video. And then this cable up the top plugs in. It is the actual driving cable of this head unit. As you might be able to see from the control box, we're at 1% right now at 5500 Kelvin. So this is your daylight balance light. I'm gonna kill my main light here in a second. I'm gonna pump this up to 100% so you can get an idea of how bright this thing actually goes. So ready? So there's that, it's gone dark, and now that's just 45%, 70, 80, 90, 100%. So it's plenty bright enough to light your subjects. It's nice and light so you can fly it pretty much anywhere. You can have it over the top of your talent and not worry about, you know, is my C stand strong enough to support this? Yeah, because it's absolutely fantastically light. I'm just gonna dial that back down now. I'm also gonna kick this back in. At maximum output, it's actually brighter than a Aputure C300D Mark II, which is a little bit surprising. There's not much in it, but it is a little bit brighter. So, you know, it does have that going for it. Over here on the control box, we have 3 main dials as well as a whole bunch of buttons. Obviously, this is your power button. It's going to turn it on and off, but let's go into the light mode. For the most part, as you're moving through the menu system, you're going to use this dial that's up here, the top dial, the one that is labeled INT. That would be your intensity in the relevant menu. So jumping into the CCT menu, the INT dial allows me to change the INT, the intensity, up here. So that's how we do that. We have the G/M/SAT dial, which is going to be this bottom right hand side. That's your green magenta when you're in white balance. So there you go, dial in between green and magenta. And then we've got CCT/hue dial, is going to control our bottom left-hand side option. So basically there's 3 options on the screen, up to 3 options on the screen, and you control them using these 3 dials. Now if I want to go back, if I want to pick out a specific color, an RGB or an effect, I hit light menu, or light mode rather. It brings me back to here. I just dial it through until I find what I want. So let's go into the HSI, which is your hue, saturation, and intensity. So this is probably looking pretty crazy on your screen right now. I actually kind of like the effect it's giving me on my hands though. I'm going to dial back that intensity. Remember, this is the intensity dial, and it's going to control the intensity here. So as I dial this, we're going to see this number here change, and we're going to see how bright this is change in accordance. Now the hue is going to be controlled by this CCT hue dial down here. Again, bottom left dial, bottom left section of the screen. Your hue is where you are in the color spectrum. So 0 is essentially red. 120 is going to be your green. That's your R and your G. So there you go. There's 120. And then if I go another 120 degrees up to 240, that's going to be the B in RGB, your blue. So 240 right there. And you might notice that the faster you turn the dial, the quicker it goes through the system or the numbers. The slower you move it, the less, the more precise your control is. And your saturation is going to control how, as you might guess, how saturated your colors are. So this is, we're all sticking at the same hue. I'm on this sort of green here, but I'm going to dial this down, and we can see, well, I can see because I'm looking right at it, that we're getting more white light come through from this and less of the green. There we go. We've got more white coming in now. And then when I get down to 1 and 0%, we've got absolutely 0 green involved. And there we go, right about there is when the last of the white light dies out. So that's your controls as you would use them in the CCT mode and the HSI mode if you want a specific color of white, if you want a specific color of RGB, then that would be how you would get to that. It could be that you're working on a set or on a location where you have to match a specific existing light, or you're trying to balance light with something else, another source, or you're trying to match another source. The easiest way to do that is to come into light mode, go to gel, click on that, and this allows you to go through the gel menu system. So you can see that my intensity is still going to be my intensity. I can dial that up and down as I like. I've got 2 values for my hue, or my CCT actually. One is 3200, which is your warmer color lights, and then the other is your daylight balance lights. And then over here in the bottom right, we've got all of our different gels. So we've got full CT blue, half, quarter, third, eighth, double CT blue, color temperature orange, all the variances of that. We've got your 15, 30, 60, 90 blues, cyans, greens, yellows, reds, magentas, pinks, and lavenders all in here. So if you are matching a specific color, if somebody says, hey, we've got a 90 yellow on that tungsten over there, you can come in straight into light mode and match it all up. Super, super easy to do. One of the things that everybody loves about Aputure lights is the inbuilt effects engine that it has. So from the light mode, we click on effects, and then we are presented with a whole list, everything from fireworks, party lights, cop car, explosions, lightning, club lights. I'll give a quick demo of all of these, and it will just be quick for each one. Again, my intensity dial, my top dial, is going to control how bright the lights are. Bottom left-hand dial is going to control the bottom left-hand side of the screen. So in this instance, how many colors we're going to circle through. And the bottom right-hand dial is going to control the frequency, so how quickly we move through those colors. So everything from 1 up to 10 in terms of colors. We've got 3, 6, basically moving up in multiples of 3 all the way up to 36. This is the club lighting, and it's pretty cool. It's going to be, you know, good for simulating being in a club. Some of these effects have multiple menus within them. So the paparazzi effect has your intensity, which I'm going to dial back before it destroys the camera. We also have a frequency option here, which again is how often it is going to trigger. And then we have a CCT option. So I'm just going to press in on that bottom left hand dial, and I can choose from here my CCT, my green magenta balance, my intensity, and really sort of pick out what color my paparazzi's strobes and flashes are going to be. Hit light mode, come back to the overall paparazzi information screen, and then continue on with my shoot. Light mode again. I'm going to come down to lightning. At a 20,000 foot level, lightning and paparazzi are the same. Bright white flashing light. The difference is the pattern in which it happens. Paparazzi is like it's a strobe going off, right? So it's bright flash and it comes down. With lightning, it's flash with smaller flashes after it. But again, we can change the frequency, the intensity, we can change the color temperature. If you have really warm or really cool lightning even, you can dial it in right there. Just sort of go in there. There you go. So that's on the cool end of the scale. Let's warm it up some. Wait for it to trigger. And if you have an effect like the lightning, you might notice that there's this little rectangle up in the top right hand corner of the screen. That means I can press that and will trigger it right there, which is handy to know. TV, this is actually really bright for just 1% intensity. This is going to simulate, you know, your person watching TV, and you can adjust whether you want warmer, cooler, neutral colors out of this. You can adjust the frequency of the flicker from it. So this would be good if you're trying to simulate somebody watching a TV without actually having to use a TV, and you want that ability to replicate the same thing over and over again without having to record or skip back through the same scene on whatever TV show. We have candle, warmer, neutral, cooler. And you'll notice that these temps are relative to the effect that we're in. The cooler temperature here, I feel, is still warmer than the warm temperature of the TV. But again, you can change the frequency of the candle flicker. I guess that would be, more candles would flicker more frequently. And yeah, it's running on a loop there. Now, similar to candle, but different, is going to be fire. So again, cooler, warmer, neutral. And again, these are relative terms in relation to the effects. So this cooler on this is going to be different to cooler on the candle. And the pattern, the comings and goings, as it were, of the light are going to be different than for candle as well. Again, you can change the frequency, the intensity, and that color, that CCT balance. Coming down to strobe, that is strobe. And it's just going to do this all day long until I go in and change one of its settings. Strobe will just do that continuously until you tell the light to do something different. So explosion is what it sounds like. It's going to be a bright flash of light, and you can pick out, again, whether you want a particular color temperature, a gel, the frequency of the explosions. I'm going to dial that intensity right back before I hit. So it's a big flash and a slow fall off. Faulty bulb it's always a good one. This is your spooky time, your October haunted house kind of feel going on with this, and the frequency is going to be a big factor in this one, I feel, for most people. But again, you can pick out specific color or a gel or a color temperature, as well as how often that's going to happen. Pulsing is pretty much what it sounds like. It's where explosion is bright and then slowly down. This is slowly up, slowly down. Pick out your color temperature, and away you go. As well as frequency, I guess. You can have a really frequent pulse, you can have it pulse at random intervals as well. If you ever see an R here, it means you've scrolled too far. No, it doesn't. It means you've scrolled past the fastest frequency and you're now in a random frequency. That's what that means. Coming down the menu, welding is as welding does. I'm gonna dial that back. So yeah, it's a nice little welding effect. Pick out your color, temperature, any gels, any frequencies, any intensities. We're gonna move on to a lot of people's favorite, the good old cop car. Cop car, you have obviously frequency, intensity, and where the other effects have, color, temperature, or gels, this has color patterns. So you have red, which is just red, blue, which is just blue, red and blue, blue and white, red, blue and white. There you go. So you've got different options in there as to how that's going to look for you. Come down to color chase, and it's basically just going to blind me because we're at 100% intensity. I'm going to dial that all the way down to 1. You can see that it is just circling through a whole bunch of different colors. You can change the frequency. This is at its fastest. At its slowest, it's a lot slower. You can also dial back the saturation there if you need it less saturated. I think we've got one more, and that is fireworks. You can have a mixture of white fireworks, colored fireworks, or white and colored fireworks. And they, go off kind of like this. Now, one of the things that makes Aputure lighting so great is the ability to use the fantastic Sidus Link app. So what I'm going to go through here now is just how to set this up with the Sidus Link app and a quick sort of screen recording of what I'm doing. So let me set up my screen recording. So I'm going to open up the Sidus Link app right there, and on the control box for the F22, I've pressed menu, I've come into this and down to Bluetooth reset, press the in button and set it to reset. On my phone, I'm going to set up a new scene. I'm going to come into this scene. I don't have any fixtures added yet, so I'm going to press this green one. It's automatically going to search for any Sidus Link compatible Bluetooth devices out there. You can either tap each one individually. If you have multiple, you can hit all. I'm going to hit setup. It's going to take a moment whilst they pair together, but it will be fairly quick. So now from my phone, I can control any and all Sidus Link fixtures that I'm currently paired to. So if I tap on this one, which is this light here, it should, because we are in effects, the effects will keep going. As soon as I switch over to white, then we actually get control back of this away from the control box. Now you may have noticed that the Sidus Link app allows you to do tenths of a percent. The actual head itself will not recognize those. It's basically every 1%. So you can't quite get as granular as you'd like, but you can do things like going all the way into the expanded color ranges color temperature ranges, which you can't do through this. You also have like presets built in here. Do I have a good example for my favorite, which is the color picker? It might be a little bit difficult because we're under unusual lighting here. I'm just going to pick up that, and right away the Sidus link has changed over to that. Here we have one of our fantastic orange cases. It is under the daylight balanced 300D that's off to my side, so I'm just going to smack the microphone again. I'm going to pick up the orange on that, and I should have a nice orange upglow from the 22C or the 22C, as it's picked up that color from the Sidus link as well. You do have all the effects in here, and yeah, it pretty much matches what we saw earlier. Cop car, doing its cop car-y thing. I'm going to pause that, and you can actually create music effects if you have music files on your phone rather than just streaming them from Spotify. Then you can load them into the app, and you can set effects based on the music. So as it's reaching certain points in the track, then you know certain effects are triggering every single time. Super helpful, very involved. Not something we're going into today. There you go. That's the F22c from Aputure / Amaran. Foldable, 2 foot by 2 foot, big old panel, more than 300, more output than the Aputure 300Ds, and very, very fun to play with. Super lightweight. We love this thing here. It's becoming a popular little item from with everybody who's rented it so far. So why not join in, find out what it is everybody's raving about. That's it, pretty much. If you've liked this video, if you found it helpful or informative, or you just like to hear a guy with a funny accent talking a lot, please consider giving a like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, smash a bell, and until next time, we're gonna miss you, DP Review.